But right now, we want to bring up one of the tried and true and stayed elders of the ATLAH World Missionary Church, Elder Joseph Smith, who a couple of months ago now was diagnosed with the coronavirus event. And he went through that process. And I want him to talk to you today. I'm going to ask him some questions because I don't think people, if you have not had it, you don't know how deadly it is and how close to death you can get. Elder, how are you doing now?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you, Pastor. Thank you for having me this morning.
Now, you haven't returned to work yet, have you?
I have. I actually went back to my workplace a couple of weeks now.
Oh, for a couple of weeks. Okay. All right. Well, the reason why I brought you on, Elder, is because we prayed with you through the process of your having that bout with the coronavirus. And I want you to talk to people. A lot of people have not had that experience and they don't know how debilitating it can be. But you got diagnosed. Now, you work for the U.S. Postal Service, is that right?
That's correct, sir.
How do you think you contracted that virus? What do you think that brought it on?
Well, I'm like 99% sure that I got it in the workplace. This is going back the beginning of March, really before any of the restrictions that we are in now went into place. And I was in a meeting with an individual who actually came back from traveling. He's from Jamaica, believe it or not. And he was even explaining to me how the conditions were in the airport at the time. And, we had our meeting and we went about our business. The funny thing was, well, not funny, but I walked around for a few days. You heard them mention about people being asymptomatic.
Right.
And I walked around probably 4 or 5 days after that, not knowing that I was in contact with somebody. And then it was made public at the job. And immediately when I found that out, I knew that I had to remove myself from the workplace because I was in contact with this person, even though I hadn't yet myself got tested. And then, of course, I called you. That was the evening I called you before the Sabbath. I said, Pastor, I can't come back into the church until I get some kind of confirmation.
Right.
Obviously, I didn't want to come and infect the congregation.
So you called this as an occupational contact. You weren't in a public social gathering. You were at work where this took place.
That is correct. That is absolutely correct, sir.
So now, how long were you out of work trying to kick this virus?
I was out about 5.5 weeks.
That long?
Yeah,
that's nearly a month and a half.
Because what happened was after that initial call to notifying people that were in contact, about 3 or so days later is when I got tested. I went to one of those drive-through places there, and they stick that thing all the way up your nose. It's going to choke you to death. And then I got the results after that. And once I got the results, I knew I had to. The basic quarantine is 2 weeks, but it really is longer than that. And then I just started to have symptoms, and
when did you start having the symptoms and feeling the dreadness of it? And tell us how it first came upon you. I mean, when you got tested, you weren't feeling sick, right?
Oh, yeah. I was already starting to have symptoms prior to getting tested. I had this horrible cough. That cough, I got to tell you, Pastor, you cannot shake it. You just imagine something that's invading your body, and you can't get it out. It's like this thing says, "I'm not leaving until I'm ready to go." And then that started first with the cough. Then I got the fever. The fever was horrible. I mean, it racks your body from head to toe. You can't move. You don't have any. It's like somebody took your taste buds out. You don't have any taste.
You lost your taste buds as well? You lost that also?
Yeah. I had no taste. And the fever didn't last a whole week. It lasted maybe 3 days. The whole fever process.
Were you sweating, perspiring? Were you?
Yes.
Could you sleep?
And headaches.
Could you sleep during that time?
I never get headaches, and I had headaches, and then the fever and the body aches. It was just horrible. You don't even want to get out of bed. You don't want to move.
And was there any other kind of pain?
Really, that was the primary. And then again, that cough. That cough is so persistent. And everyone has had a cough from time to time where you produce phlegm or mucus, and then you wait for that to come up, and that's a sign that the cold's leaving you.
Right.
But this cough is like totally different than that. I've never experienced anything like this. It's a dry, persistent cough, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's like when you cough, you're just going to cough, and it will stop for a few minutes, and then you start coughing again.
Did you have a shortness of breath as well? Did that take place?
That was the one symptom that, thank God, it did not get to attack the depths of my respiratory system. What you see, many of the people that had to be hospitalized.
Well, let me ask you this: did you get the fever a second time? Did it come on you a second time? Did you have the fever?
I did, but what happened was then I called my physician, and when I felt a little bit that the symptoms might be waning a bit, I called my physician. I asked him to send me over an antibiotic to my local pharmacy, and I had it picked up and delivered to my house, and that seemed to help a little bit with the coughing. But it took, at that point it was already 3.5 weeks in, so it took some time for the symptoms to begin to wane, and eventually.
You were talking. Let's see, it's May now. So you were talking the end of March and at least half of April. Is that right, that you were going through this period?
Well, it began. The contact began the beginning of March, around the 6th or so of March, so the first week of March.
Right.
And then it took those few days before I got diagnosed. I was out basically almost a whole month of April. So the rest of March, and then I think I went back to work April, the last week in April, I believe, is when I went back to work.
Let me ask you this, then. You were sick during the worst death reports here in New York City, where they were calling for ventilators, and you were watching these refrigerated trucks with bodies being thrown in them. You were watching hospitals being overworked, and there people on these gurneys out in the hallway. And there was this was the first rising of all those people dying so rapidly. That's when you had your great sickness. Is that right? Is that the same time?
That is absolutely correct. And let me say thank you for your prayers and all of the family and members of the ATLAH World Missionary Church that contacted me and texted me and let me know that they're praying for me. And I got to tell you that that's so important. And then again, of course, the fact that you've given us the word leading up into this, prior to this event, your teaching. But, I also, Pastor, while I was home and all those things that were going on that you mentioned, I was getting text messages and calls frequently of people that were dying on my job. We lost at least 10 people in our facility from this coronavirus. So I was sitting in my bed, and I almost wanted to turn my phone off, because it would seem like every other day I was getting a report of somebody dying on the job. I can't tell you how disturbing that was, to be getting those kind of messages while I myself was laying up in the bed with this thing.
Now, I know you're a member of the elect. Sure enough, boom, shakalaka, stomp down. There ain't no doubt in my mind about that, Elder. There ain't no doubt in my mind at all about that. I understand that. I know that. But I got to ask you, did you think you were going to die?
The one night, well, I don't know if I thought I was going to die. I mean,
because they're calling you now, and 10 people around you died in the same place you work, right?
It gets very dark. It got very dark in my house, and I had my 93-year-old father. I had to move him out also right away. He never was in the house once I knew I was.
How's your father doing, by the way? He's 93 years old.
But there was one night that it was kind of bad. I was just laying on this bed, and I said, what is going on here? Because you don't think you're supposed to get that. You say, I remember the elect, I ain't getting no daggone virus. And well, here comes that virus knocking on the door. So, but it was the strength of your prayers and the strength of your teaching really, really that brought me over the hump. I had not had that, I probably would have been thinking I was checking out of here, because that thing would have had me down for the count, and I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. There's no defense against this thing. Your body, when it's in your body, it's just in your body, and that's it. You can't do nothing until it either takes you out or it leaves, and that's pretty much how it is.
Now, you've been tested negative now, and so you're back at work. But do you have concerns that even though you're back at work and their temperatures are taken, I guess, mornings when they come in and they're asked questions as to whether or not they are still carrying the virus in them? Do you think that perhaps there's asymptomatic people still around that, and the doctors have not reported that having it is guarantee of being immune. You do know that medical report as well, is that right?
Yes, sir, I do. Yes. But I don't think, the only thing I can pray is that the whole idea of having the antibodies prevents you from getting it again. Now, obviously, that has not yet been proven 100% positive. They believe, at least the last reports that I heard, they believe that there is a degree where if you had the antibodies, then you have a means of protection. But again, that hasn't been proven. So I'm praying that that's the case, and then I won't have to worry about at least that part anymore. But when I do everything that I can when I'm in the workplace, I wear a mask. By the way, they don't test people when they come in, so people are just coming in the building. And if they have it, they come in there. In fact, last week we had 3 people that had to go out quarantine because they tested positive. So that's still going on. But when I'm out, the very few times I'm out in public, and when I'm traveling to work, I'm just in my car, going to the building, back in my car, and back in my house. And only if I have to go to get some necessities, food supplies, and I go out in public, then I have a mask on. But to answer your question, I just pray that, that initial bout with it now has given me a defense for any future infections.
I believe that the virus now, once you have it and then you don't have it anymore, that there are antibodies, because several of the media staff here all came down with 104 temperatures and that same thing you're having, and then in a couple of days it was gone. So I think they're pretty safe at present. I'd go ahead and bet on that. Listen, Elder, we're so delighted and thankful to God that you made it. I never thought for one second you were not going to make it. I never did. But I'm delighted. We need you so desperately. You're such an integral part. You've been in this church for several decades, and your ministry is so absolutely critical to what we do. And so we thank God that you're still with us, and you're going to step over the ditch called the grave with us, and we're going to keep on serving the Lord together. I'm glad you took the time today to talk to us as well, and so people that haven't seen your face, because it's been months now since anybody's seen your face or heard your voice. But thank God you're here today. Thank you for taking the time to spend with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Pastor. God bless you.
God bless you, Elder. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.